Hey, this is Troy Taylor from the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast, sponsored by Rack Coach and Sports Workbook. I got my great friend Joe Daniel here today. Joe, for the people that don't know, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you're from, Joe?
I am in Richmond, Virginia, as well. Um, at Colonial Heights High School, I'm the offensive coordinator there. The last 2 years, I run Joe Daniel football. We started in 2009, I think, with footballdefense.com, and eventually kind of transitioned into Joe Daniel football, and it's been around for over 12 years, 13 years. Doing coaching systems there, football, doing 4-2-5, 3-3. They're really the same 3-4, 4-3, and then the pistol power offense, which is a lot of Coach Mountjoy stuff. And then, yeah, that's it. I was at Prince George High School for a long time as defensive coordinator. I was a head coach at Amelia, and then being an offensive coordinator now.
And I remember you went out to junior college to coach too, didn't you, Joe?
Yeah, I went out to Iowa Western, not Iowa Western. I went out to Iowa to Ellsworth Community College. I was thinking about it, popped in my head because you had a kid that went to Iowa Western, I think, we played against. And we were out there. But yeah, I was at a junior college out there coaching linebackers. I was actually a defensive coordinator was Ricky Kuhn, who's the defensive coordinator at Southeast Missouri now, doing a really good job there. So that was an interesting time learning about JUCO ball.
Yeah. What did you learn?
Because we don't have a strong junior college presence here in Virginia. There's not. I don't think there is a JUCO in Virginia. The closest thing we have is Lewisburg in North Carolina. So we don't really have a couple in Pennsylvania, I think. But we don't have a real strong junior college presence here. Not like Texas, Mississippi, the Iowa schools, California, obviously. So I didn't know what it was. I thought that it was just for kids who couldn't get the grades. And there is that element of it, but it is an opportunity for kids who don't have the grades. But what I found out about junior college was not only was it an opportunity for those kids who maybe didn't get the grades or struggle with the school part of it. You can go, if you go to a good junior college, you will up yourself a level. So if you feel like you are under recruited as an athlete or as a coach, you feel like you have a kid who's under recruited, if you can get him to a good junior college, he will, if he's a D3 kid, he will come out of there after a year and a half as a D2 kid, a scholarship D2 kid. He will go from D2 to FCS, and we had plenty of FBS kids come out of there. So just learning what an opportunity that JUCO could be. It's also such a cool place. I don't know that I want to do it forever, but you get the high school recruiting end of it. So I learned, going around and visiting all the Iowa coaches and sitting in their offices and talking ball with them and talking about their kids and recruiting the kids that were, the kids who were graduating. But then also, we have, Bob Stoops is coming in to recruit our quarterback, and his staff is sitting I'm sitting in an office with, Bob Stoops and the Oklahoma staff. So you get that end of it too, and it's kind of crazy.
Man, so I remember when you went out there, and I remember it might have been the first clinic we ever had in 2009. You came and set up a table when you were starting, the offense. Was it offense defense, or what was the name of your first website?
Football defense, footballdefense.com.
Football defense,
yeah.
And then it became Joe Daniel football.com, and you were teaching, and you left teaching to full-time, run the websites. Tell me about that, Joe. That was a heck of a gamble you made there, man.
Yeah, it was. It was and it wasn't. I went out to Iowa for a year, and I came back, and I was a history teacher. And if anybody knows anything about education, there are no history jobs available. So when I left and I came back, there were no history jobs. And I worked for Capital One for, I came back in January. It was just cold and miserable in Iowa. I came back in January. I worked Capital One for 6 months. And then I started, I was like, I got to get back into, coaching and school and everything. And there were no history jobs, and I ended up I took the math praxis 2 and got certified for math, which is an easy job to get. Taught math for 2 years, and while I did that, the business was kind of established. I figured out how to make money doing it. And Troy, had some of the great things that teachers get to do. I was sitting at bathroom duty. I'm signing kids in to go urinate. And I'm sitting there looking at my laptop while I'm on my bathroom duty, and I'm making money off of selling these ebooks. And I was looking these kids signing in to go to the bathroom, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. So I was already making a little bit of money, and I was kind of, my thought process was, if I can make this money, I would get up at 5 a.m. I would work until 11:30 at night so that I could run this business. Um, and my thought process was, I'm putting in a few hours on this business. What if I did 40 hours a week on it? What if I did 50 hours a week on it? And I figured I could make a living doing it. And so I resigned, and eked out a living for a couple of years till I really got it going.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got like 15,000 followers on Twitter. I mean, was there ever like a turning point where it just blew up, or was it like a gradual build, Joe, on
Yeah,
that?
it's been gradual. I mean, it's been gradual, and there's, um, I suppose that it's like anything else. It's like if you were lifting weights, you have periods where you're improving drastically, and then there's plateaus, and then you break through again and make a big jump, and then you plateau again. And so it's um, just continuing to do that, and finding new ways to help coaches, finding new ways to grow a business. With the podcast, football coaching podcast, that was one of the first things. And then it was like, okay, I've done video, I've done, all sorts of stuff, and YouTube, we'll be getting back on YouTube, but mainly with the podcast soon. So just finding new ways to do things, finding new ways to help coaches, finding new ways to, when I started out, I would do an ebook, or I would do a video that was kind of like, what you'd see on Championship Productions or something like that. And it was like, I gotta do something different. Um, and just every time we find something different, a lot of those different things don't work. We find something different, and it kind of breaks through, and then you got to find the new thing.
Which coach, and I might know the answer to this, I don't know. Which coach has had the biggest impact on you, Joe?
It's funny because it's the coach I will go back to this, and I will always go back to this story. There's a lot of coaches I've learned a ton from. Bill Mountjoy is obviously a huge influence. Bruce Carroll, I learned a ton from working for him. Just so many coaches that I've worked with and worked for that I've learned so much from. My first year of teaching was at Smithfield High School, and I was on staff with a coach. I was the JV offensive line coach. I was given no instruction. I was handed a Delaware wing T playbook. Plays numbered one here. We're going to run 121. And I'm like, I have no idea what this means. I was given no instruction, but handed a playbook. And of course, buck sweep. I got two guards pulling into each other left and right on the JV. I struggled bad through that year. Really struggled. I almost gave up coaching football after 1 year. Struggled teaching, just got eaten alive out there. Luckily, it was a 4x4 block, so you get to start all over in the spring. I coached wrestling that year. I got talked into coaching every sport there was, but I coached wrestling that year with Tyler Mosley. And Tyler taught me how to manage kids, how to control a classroom, taught me how to he taught me how to fake it sometimes when you don't know. And just like go out there and, I'm coaching wrestling. I was 0-5 on the JV as a freshman. That was my whole wrestling experience. And he taught me how to, go out there and fight through it. And I ended up coaching wrestling at Prince George. And I coached softball. I coached softball with one of the best softball coaches in the state at Prince George, Pat Wagasback. And I didn't know anything about softball. I didn't play baseball. I hadn't played baseball since middle school. So Tyler taught me so much about being a teacher. And I can tell you this, you cannot coach if you can't teach. That whistle means nothing. And so he taught me how to be a teacher. And honestly, I would have quit he had this conversation with me because I had zero confidence in myself as a football coach after my first year. And I had confidence because of him, working with him in wrestling. Toward the end of the year, he said, if Windsor High School started which was the other school in the county, if Windsor High School started a wrestling program, do you think that you could be the head coach? And I said, yeah, I could do that. And he said, could you be the head football coach? I said, no way. And he's like, he was like, why? He's like, you don't know anything about wrestling. I was like, that's absolutely true. But I had confidence from working with him in wrestling. And from there, I was like, okay, if I have confidence, I can do it. It was just like a change of thought. I don't know if I would have done anything that I'm doing now without that.
Yeah, I'm just so happy to have you on here. You communicate a lot with coaches. What's the number one question you get offensively from guys?
Offense. Well, the number one question is probably how many plays do I need? Or what plays do I need? How many plays? That's the big thing that guys are looking for, because we're working a lot with the guys who are small schools, rural schools. They got 3 coaches on staff, and they're trying to figure it out. People don't come to me because they went 9-1 last year. They come to me because they went 1-9 last year, and they're trying to figure out. And their kids looked like they'd never been coached going out on the field, and they're looking for how many run plays do I need? How many pass plays do I need? And then from there, my job is to say, okay, you don't need very many plays. I mean, how many plays we need. We need 5. there's 5 run plays. That's how many plays that there are in the playbook. And then it's just dressed up all sorts of ways from there. And how many pass concepts do I need? Well, you probably don't need many. And that's the most common thing that we talk about.
Is it the same thing with defense? Do they come to you and say, what should I be? Should I be a 3 down, 4 down, 5 down? Or do they just tell me, give me a system? I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of, it's hard because I don't care about numbers. I don't, what do you like? Who are you? And that's kind of what we do. Is I think a lot of people come in with a mindset of what they want to be, but I've got 4 defensive systems, and they're really just one defensive system. And then you slide the guys over to the left, you back one guy up. It's not that the calls are all the same. So, we go through the most simplistic defense we have is the 4-2-5. That's what 80% of our coaches are running. That is some version. The most aggressive and advanced is the 4-3. It requires better athletes. It requires better coaching. The 3-3 is simple, but you can have a lot of flexibility with it. You can create a lot of looks, a lot of, do creating fronts. The 3-4 is the most versatile. So which one do you want to be? You want to be really simple. You want to be simple, but have some control. You want to be versatile, or, if I were coaching at a college and could recruit my kids, I'd be a 4-3 Miami 4-3 defense. But Colonial Heights, we don't get to do that.
Yeah. I mean, this year at Colonial Heights, what a heck of a job you and Justin did. And I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but just talk about taking that program over and what y'all had to do, and how y'all turned that thing around.
Yeah, Justin's such a hard worker, and just Colonial Heights is we had the first winning season in 17 years at Colonial Heights. So 2005 was the last winning season there. Made it to the playoffs and went in as a 7 seed, playing a team that, God, when we looked at them, it was like, oh my God. And we were competitive. The final score didn't look good. We the wheels fell off, but in the third quarter, we're down 28-20. We're in the game. We're the first team to score 20 points on them since week 2. So, we're feeling pretty good about it. We felt like we were competitive, and we were in the game in the third quarter, and then we just kind of ran out of steam. Justin went in there, and he took he wouldn't listen to anything, and I don't either. He wouldn't listen to anything anybody had to tell him. And that's what you have to do. Because when you come in there, you hear nothing but negativity. You hear nothing but, you can't win here. You can't.
Mm.
These kids don't want to win. These kids don't do this. We don't have this kid. We don't have that kid, or they don't, because you're hearing from outside people. Um, this just all kinds of stuff that you're hearing. We didn't have a JV program the years before. We didn't have the numbers. Justin went through, and as a staff, we helped some too. Coach Watkins was there helping out. Right, is our defensive coordinator, and our JV staff, and got involved, and we called every male in Colonial Heights, and called them and said, we want you to play football.
Mm.
And I tell guys, because guys are like, guys with low numbers are like, how do we get these numbers? A lot of these kids are just like, nobody's ever shown any, nobody's ever shown an interest in them. Like,
Mhm.
you can go out there and recruit the 6'4", the 6'2", 220 kid. Lots of people are talking to him. And I strongly recommend that you do, but you're going to need another 25 or 30 kids to fill out a roster. And Justin recruited so hard, getting those kids out, putting that program together. Our weight room was shut down for 18 months because of COVID. We never opened back up. So when we went out on the field, everybody else was pretty much, open for business by then. Colonial Heights is such a small place that everybody lives on top of each other. So there's just, there'd be a COVID outbreak every week. So we never got the weight room going again. This is just crazy. And, Justin just would not accept, the negativity. We were going to go out there. We were going to put the best product together that we could. We work around our kids and what they can do. And this year we had a young sophomore quarterback, not a lot of experience, but an incredible athlete. And we just built around him. We don't have a big offensive line, so we couldn't go out there and just run power to death. We had to formation you in motion and finesse, and we ended up with inside zone and zone read being our best play because that's just what it was. But yeah, it's all Justin. I mean, it's that's a huge part of it. Is just he just refuses to hear it. I mean, to hear the negativity, and if you have that mindset, then you can do good things.
Yeah. So, what are some of the things that people reach out to you, or are the most bought or the most clicked on your website? Like, what is it that people want to learn about?
Linebacker reads. I
Good luck. Like,
accidentally did this one time.
Well, I want you to come back and do a talk on that because, man.
It's my linebacker reads are so simple because we've overcomplicated it so much. But I once did a podcast 5 weeks apart on linebacker reads. I didn't even realize it, and they were two of my most downloaded podcasts. Just guys are always looking for linebacker reads, and we made them so simple. It's if he pulls, follow. If he doesn't, fill. Like, you just got to get those kids going. I don't even teach like a pass drop. You can pass read for them. Like, find out late and run backwards.
Yeah, man. I mean, I coached with the guy that the inside backers, they don't have any responsibility on the pass. I mean, in 7-on-7, those inside backers are 20 yards deep. But in high school ball, very rarely do I ever see an inside backer break up a pass. And I mean, there's a good saying, like, running backs hit holes and linebackers fit them or fill them. So, I mean, so people actually pay for your linebacker reads. That's what they want to know. I guess, I mean,
it's the most common question that we get asked, is how do I get the, and look, I do game film analysis. Our coaches send me their game film every week. And it is the very first thing that we start to work on is squeezing down blocks on the defensive line, linebackers, moving, filling, going forward, getting the right alignment, and then safeties forcing the play, not giving up outside contain. That's the three things that we work on first. And if you can do those three things, you can win a decent amount of ball games. It's a shocking amount of ball games that you can win by being able to squeeze a down block, fill an open door, and not let anybody outside of you.
Yeah, it's not a hard recipe. And then, like, after that, linebackers. What is the next thing after linebacker reads?
We get linebacker reads is the big one, but then The probably biggest issue that coaches have is, we were losing contain. We're getting beat on the edge is what coaches will tell me. Um, which is, that's the number one thing that we have problems with. And I try to convince people we align our safeties really wide. And I think I got that from Jim Reed, who said, and I think he said it, align where they're going and meet them on the way, which made so much sense to me. You stick the fastest kid in the whole county back there at running back, and I've got a glorified linebacker who's supposed to play 3-by-3 and not let him outside of him. And Jim Reed was like, put him at 7. Put him all the way out there. And then TCU did the same thing, 7-by-3 alignment, 5-by-5 on the weak side with their 4-2-5. We started doing that. And guys fight that a lot. That's what I spend the vast majority of my time discussing, how wide those safeties seem to be. And guys fight it a lot because they're like, well, how's he going to fill inside? And I'm like, that's a linebacker defensive line free safety job. He can, you back him up, he can fill. But the problem is if he loses force, there's nobody there. That's like, you're worried about an 8-yard play. I'm worried about a 65-yard play.
Yeah.
Which one do we want to stop? So that's like I said, we get guys in. Those are the 3 things we work on: squeezing down blocks, linebackers filling, and it's the same thing with the linebackers. Well, what's he going to do against a pass? I don't care, because if he can't stop the run, they're not going to throw it. This is high school.
That is a great point. That is a great point. So your business model for your website, can people not just buy systems from you and you have like, hey, this is how you do it? The people also pay you to be a consultant. How does that work?
Yeah. So what we do is it's the JDFB Coaching Systems is really a different model from what I think coaches are used to seeing. It's not a collection of videos. It's literally, I want to be on your staff, and now we're bringing in other coaches that have been with me for a while that are helping out as well. When you come in, you get the system, you get the videos, and it's very, very detailed. I mean, our pistol power offense which is it's a 1-back offense. It's Bill Mountjoy. It's not all pistol, it's not all power, but it's 25 hours of instruction and the game film, and I went a little over I'm an offensive line guy, and I went a little over I go overboard on the offensive line detail, because to me it's detail, and it drives me nuts when guys talk about our kids are bored doing the same drill, and I'm like, my kids can never be bored because they don't have time. I only run 2 drills, I don't have much going on, but the detail code, I love the detail of it. It's the same thing with the defensive systems. They're very, very detailed, but then it's also, we have our chalkboard forum where you can ask questions anytime on our forum. There's over 1,000, 1,200 posts on there. Some guys just like to go through and see what other people have asked and scroll back. We do Chalk Talk Q&As, which are Zoom calls like this. We do them twice a month or every other week during the off season. We do them every week in season so that you ask questions on Monday nights, get your game plan straight, make sure you have everything set to go, solve problems. If you need to fix something, we work on, hey, drills and how to fix this, how to align to that, solving problems in there. And then we have our game film analysis for our platinum level, where you can send me your game film. You send it on Huddle, or if you don't have Huddle, you send it whatever way you can. And I watch, as much of it as I can, and I send you what I think are the levers you need to pull. I try to look for the low-hanging fruit. Here are the things that, if you fix this one thing on the defensive line, fix this one thing at linebacker, fix this one thing at corner, fix this one thing at safety this week, you will be significantly better. And we try to find that, that one thing here and there that we can do. Offense is a little bit different when you do the game film analysis, because there's a lot of suggestion of different ways that you could do things. But, with defense, it's a lot of just, focus on squeezing down blocks or something like that. So with our coaches don't always love that. I'm sure you've had Bill watch your film, and it's never good.
Yeah, I mean, when you ask somebody for help, expect the truth.
Yeah, and
You know, and
look,
if the person's not telling you the truth, they're not helping you. So talk a
and
little
that's
bit about that. Like,
it so, like, with Bill, with Coach Mountjoy, I know when he watches our offense, like, and he will tell us, he's proud of the things that we're doing, um, but we're not
but
doing it right.
but
Because this is his baby, like, this is his, and it's mine now too, and it's yours, and it's everybody who's done it, but this is his baby, and so when he's watching it, and he's got his vision of it, and he's telling you, "I think it'd be better if you did this." Some of it we do, some of it we don't. When I watch somebody's game film, I don't think they wanna hear, I mean, I think they wanna hear, "Man, you're doing a great job. This is awesome." But that's not helping. And I'll say that, "Hey, there's been a lot of improvement here. You've done these things. You've done really well." But I'm focused on, when I'm watching that film, I'm not focused on your ego, and making you feel good. I'm focused on making your football team better. Um, and so I think I know some of our coaches, when they have a bad game, they don't want to send that film, right? They don't. So I don't get it every week from a lot of our coaches. They go out and they get blown out, and I never see that film. But like, and we were actually talking on my podcast. We played Dinwiddie this year. Dinwiddie won a state title. Dinwiddie, you know, just beat us to death. We did
I mean, they
nothing.
beat Thomas Dale. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's like
and
playing a college team.
yes, and they dropped us and are going to Ohio for a game, and I don't think we're sad. But the thing about it is that game was awful. That game was awful. But you watch that film, and there's so many things to learn from it. And and I know our guys, like, did I want to send that? Do I want Coach Mountjoy to see that film? Absolutely not, because we didn't execute anything. I mean, they're really good, but also we just didn't execute anything. Do I want Coach Mountjoy to see that film? Absolutely not. Do I need him to? 100%. Because when you have somebody, I think this is the most important thing. When you have somebody with outside eyes, they can
Mhm.
watch a game and take the emotion away from it.
Yes, or
So
the personalities of the players.
exactly, because when you watch it, you're watching the kid who came to the weight room every single day and works so hard and has a 4.0, and you love him and he's an awesome kid. And somebody outside your program is seeing the kid who missed the block. And you don't see that because you don't see that he's not performing the way that he should. Or even if you do, you're rationalizing it in your mind. And you need somebody to say, look, this kid's not getting it done. And I never talk about specific players because I don't know players, and I don't know, I don't know your players. If I'm watching your film and you're in Minnesota, I don't know what's going on in that kid's life, and I'm not going to bash that kid or rip that kid or anything. But I'm going to point out the technical flaws and the things that could be done better. That's my job. It's not to say this kid, I don't know what's on your bench. That kid might be in your best 11. He may be horrible and he's in your best. Trust me, I've put kids out on the field who were not ready to be a varsity football player, but they were in our best 11. And
Sometimes you don't have to be good. I
yeah,
mean, sometimes you just gotta be there,
right.
you know? I
And
mean,
that's what we look for. I think that's what the thing that we do in our systems really, really well is we don't coach to the star athlete. Um, we coach to, how can I get anyone? How can I get a warm body to do this job well enough that we can be successful? What is if I can have this kid who's not a very good athlete, not very big, what is one, I need him to do one thing really well. What is that one thing going to be? How am I going to teach it to him?
yeah. It sometimes, I mean, like, if I was ever to take over a program, the first thing that I focus on is the off season. So, do you provide that too? Because I mean, getting a team to buy in and getting them, like you said, Justin did, get kids out, get them in the weight room. I mean, is that also a part of the recipe?
Yeah, look, um, Justin, just tell you, Justin again. This is the hard thing, and you know this. Justin comes into Colonial Heights program that's on its fourth head coach in 5 years or something like that. Um, our seniors that first year had been through all of it. all the things that Justin came in and said in that first speech about turning the program around and making this a winner, and all the words, they'd already heard all that.
Mhm.
Shoot, the guys that have been into that program, they're all from the same place. We're all from the same area. These were guys who'd all been at the same district pretty much. So they'd heard it before, and you've got to prove it. You've got to, they've heard these words before, and they're pretty empty until you go out there and you prove it. So the things that, what you start doing is the weight room, but more important than the weight room, um, it's building the relationships and everything.
Mm.
And like I said, we didn't have that weight room really. Our weight room,
Yeah.
we got back in the weight room for a month in June 2021, and then it got shut down again going into the season. So we had 1 month of weightlifting for the entire year and a half before, and that was coming off the spring season and all that. So there wasn't weight room to build that, to get things established. It was going out and showing those kids that, and I don't know what's different. I know all the coaches that have been there before, and I respect every single one of them. I think they're all good football coaches. I don't know what was different because I wasn't there, but we had to prove to those kids. I mean, the first thing we had to do was prove to those kids we knew what we were talking about. Because I can tell you, I walk in there and I got a kid who's on his third, fourth offensive coordinator, and it took 7 weeks to convince a couple of these kids that we knew what we were doing. I mean, it was easily 7 weeks in. Not that they weren't fighting us, but you can tell they weren't fully bought in. And I don't know what the turning point was, but you got to get these kids to buy it, to believe in you. And it's hard. It is hard.
I mean, you've been a head coach before, and you've been in programs. I mean, I'm thinking some of them. I mean, Prince George, they had a head coach for a long time, but in Amelia, it was a lot of turnover. Colonial Heights has been a lot of turnover. And do you ever get young coaches that ask you, how do I move up? How do I become a head coach? How do I move up to the next level? What advice would you give the young coaches out there, Joe?
I go back and forth on it, man. I used to think like, don't take that that career killer job, And look, Colonial Heights would
If
absolutely
you're young,
be.
yeah, if you're old, don't. But if you're young, yes. I think that's
I
what Coach Mountjoy might have said. Somebody told me that. I've done 90 of these in 30
Yeah,
days. But somebody said you can do it when you're young and regain. But if you're older, you can't. Does that
yeah,
make sense?
yeah, for sure. To me, I think all of us think we're ready before we are. I don't think anybody is ready to be a head coach until you are. But I think, all of us, when we're 25, 26, 27, we think we understand the whole world, and you've got, 4 years of coaching behind you, and you think you can do it better than everybody. And then when you get to be 10 years of coaching, you realize, how much you don't know. 10 or 15 years in, you realize how stupid you were 3 years in and how stupid you are now. And you start to realize you're never going to really, figure this thing out. Um, it's so when coaches come to me, that my biggest thing is, number one, I think this is really important. Go ahead and start applying for jobs right away. If you want to be a head coach, you need to start, because it's like anything else. It's practice. It's getting better. If you send out, what do we have? 6, 7 openings in the Richmond metro area this year. So if you send out 6 resumes and you did not get a single phone call, you need to work on your resume, right? And then maybe next year you get 1 phone call or 2 phone calls. You get an interview. Then you go in and you might bomb the interview, but you don't. One of the things that coaches need to understand is interview for all of them. You don't
Yeah.
have to accept it. If they offer you the job, you are not obligated to accept the job, but get the experience. Get the experience of putting the resume out there. Get the experience of the interview. Get as much of it as you can, and then the other big thing is, wherever you are, I think that a lot of coaches, be where you're at. A lot of coaches start to think about, I want to be a head coach. I want to do this. And they start to look at I think sometimes we get in situations and we go, I don't like what I'm fortunate that most of my career I have worked for friends. My head coaches have been friends of mine. They've mostly been Justin and Bruce. But most of my career, Mark Tomlin, who are all friends. But wherever you are, make sure that you are do not undermine, and I've been in places where this is a big problem. Do not undermine the guys that you're working for, because their success is your success. And guys get this ego thing of, well, I know better than he does, and they start to undermine what he's trying to do. I don't care how wrong he is. If it's not physically or mentally dangerous to those kids, you go out and you do it. You do it to your best of your ability, because the way that you're going to get your next job is the success that you have at this job.
Yeah, be a good soldier. I
Yeah.
mean, my dad always told me, he said, Troy, you got to be able to take orders before you can give them. You probably were one of the first guys that really bought into having a website and having a YouTube and having a podcast. That's why I wanted to get you on here. And anybody that, if I don't know, Joe, but maybe at the beginning of this interview, I mean, there might be some guys talking in the background because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, Joe is the expert. I'm the idiot that has John Strollo and the offensive line coach from West Florida on one window and talking out of a speaker. And then you probably could still hear them at the beginning of this. But so, Joe, I want to say thank you, man. But you were one of the first guys on Twitter and on YouTube and a podcast. I mean, you were ahead of the curve, man. And I want to give you your props for that and give you your flowers. Because, I mean, dude, you were doing this before I ever had a podcast or anybody had a website. How has Twitter changed? Jim McNally, the greatest coaching job I ever have done. I told him, I said, anybody can coach Anthony Munoz, but to get you on Twitter, I mean, how has Twitter changed? I mean, now we got Jim McNally on there, but how has it changed since you got on there in the coaching wise?
I have never been. I'm not a big social media guy. I have a following on social media. I just am not. Twitter. The thing about it is, you remember when 15 years ago, the only thing that you could get on the internet was Coach Huey, right? And that was, and I talked to my podcast co-host Daniel Chamberlain, who's a younger guy. And I'll talk about, going on forums and ordering DVDs that had to be sent in the mail. And he just blows his mind. When I started,
remember we used to trade and
bootlegs and all kinds of stuff. And when I started my podcast, that was, like I said, I was one of the first. It was terrible, by the way.
What year did you start your podcast? Because I mean, Rogan started in 2009, dude.
My first one was in 2009. I had a podcast called Gridiron Chat that no longer is out there. And the funny thing is, when I started, I was trying to create a business where I would teach football knowledge to fans, to parents and to.
That's what people told me to do too. That's what Byron Jones said, but they're not committed, like
no. And what I found out after about 6 months was I don't want to talk to those people. I want to talk to football coaches. And what happened was on the side, I started blogging about 4-3 defense and stuff. And that started getting traction. That started taking off because there wasn't anything else out there. Like, it was Coach Huey. And then you had to pay $40 for a DVD. And back in the day, those DVDs, man, they were $40. They were 45 minutes long. If you bought a set, I bought the set of Georgia Military College. It was like 12.
Yeah, the 353. I remember.
Yeah, the 353. And I got my mom to buy this for me for Christmas, right? And it was like a mix of DVDs and VHS and whatever.
And they weren't all well done. I mean, it was not thorough.
They were not detailed. It was alignment. The first 20, they were all 45 minutes long.
Recruiting.
The first 25 minutes was all the same in every single one of them. They had a video on how to defend the wing tee. Those guys had never seen a wing tee, right? And they're like, here's how you defend a wing tee. And I'm like, looking at it, and I'm like, I think you were running a wing tee at the time. And I'm like, that ain't going to work.
Yeah. I don't know what I run. People say, well, I got you figured out, Troy. And I'll say, dude, I don't even know what we do. So good luck figuring me out.
I had somebody tell us that they couldn't figure out what we were doing. And I was like, we are just moving a bunch of guys around and snapping the ball and running the same 4 or 5 plays that we've
Yeah.
run since 2007, and it ain't
Mhm.
changed, and it ain't gonna change.
And yeah, it won't change. I mean, it is what it is, dude. I mean, there's
Yeah,
only so many runs in football. So
shoot, we
so
ran speed
Joe
option this year, first time in my career, but because we had a coach who knew how to coach it,
yeah.
it was awful, and then eventually it got better, but the blocking, it was just our outside zone blocking. That was all we did, and I didn't change anything else. Like, it's just it's window dressing. It's all window dressing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I got my brother waiting on me outside. Our girls are playing, uh, they're playing at Meadowbrook in the state semis. So like Joe, thank you for coming on. And I mean, if there's anything that you want to say to anybody out there, that we haven't been able to talk to, me, heck, we've been on here 40 minutes, and I mean, it seems like we haven't even talked. I mean, we could probably do 2 hours
Yeah,
easily, you
it's
know,
amazing how much you can talk about football when you put your mind to it.
dude. I did over 100 in 30 days.
Yeah,
Like that's sad. Like,
it's it gets the funny thing is when you look back on them, you can't
yeah,
remember some of them.
help me, talk to me.
Keep doing them. I'll tell you what, the biggest thing, Troy, is I've been doing this. I've started my first podcast in 2009, football coaching podcast in 2012. I've done hundreds and hundreds of episodes. I did a second podcast. I've probably done over 800 or 900 episodes at this point. I've watched podcasts start and people talk to me about competition, and other people starting up websites and starting up podcasts. I don't worry about any of them, because number one, I'm not concerned about competition, because if either you like me or you don't, and if you like somebody else, that's cool too. But they all disappear. They all disappear. The biggest thing is if you keep producing content year after week after week, consistently, week after week. I don't know if you can do 90 every 30 days, but
No, no.
but
See, I'm not. Once summer camp starts, I'm shutting it down. But
right.
dude, everybody's like, Troy, you're gonna do the clinic. You can do the clinic. I mean, my coaches started this channel, and they were talking about NFL, and then I got them. Billy Mills is excellent, but my coaches complained that it was an hour and 20 minutes. And I was like, an hour and 20 minutes? Like, the dude was giving y'all everything. And I
Mhm.
had to write the questions down. So I was like, y'all are fired. I'm taking it over. But I won't go do the in-person clinic. And I never get to listen to anybody in the in-person. This, I
Right.
talked to 100 guys.
And I'll tell you what, that is the cool thing about this, is that you get to sit down and talk ideas you get these ideas from other people. It accelerates even at our age and experience. It is like you accelerate your learning because you're talking to so many different people and working with different coaches and stuff. And it's just, you can't recreate that, by being on the sidelines or by reading a book or watching a video.
Yeah. So how can people contact you, Joe? Put your website. I would have put it down there at the bottom, man, but I was amazed I could even get this thing going. It's having another one going at the same time. So yeah.
You can give me Joe Daniel
Joe's
Football.
professional. I'm not.
That's why I have somebody who handles all my stuff. But JoeDanielFootball.com. You can give me @footballinfo on Twitter, and either one of those places. And we've got you can go to go to JoeDanielFootball.com/foundations. We got some free video series there that you get access to at JoeDanielFootball.com/foundations. It'll be a cool way to kind of get introduced to what we do.
Yeah. So this has been an intro to Joe Daniel Football. I'm going to have Joe back on here, but thank y'all, Joe. You're the best. And how do you like having Coach Mountjoy to listen to on here?
He is honest.
Man.
You know what we did? This is my last thing. You know what we did this year? Coach Mountjoy was insistent. You got to run the hitch and pitch, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to run it. I think we ran it like 3 or 4 times against Petersburg it was basically a play-in game for the playoffs. It was week 10, winner go home. Winner go to the playoffs, loser go home. And I think we ran it like 4 times against Petersburg. And I'm like, daggone, this guy, he's never wrong.
Yeah, he isn't. So everybody watch Coach Mountjoy. Everybody go hit up JoeDanielFootball.com and I appreciate you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot,
Thank you,
coach.
man. Thank you.